Did Salehe, Bembury, and Puma just create the most comfortable sneaker of the year? This is the upcoming Puma SB Velum Nitro. It's a brand new silhouette created by Salehe Bembury for Puma. And not only is it wild looking, it's also wildly comfortable. Quick, before we dive into the video, I want to let you guys know about a giveaway that I've got running over on Core. I'm giving away two things. I'm giving away an Elgato 4KX, which is a capture card essentially, which means you can capture your game recording for either live streaming or filming reviews like me on my tech channel. And for the sneakerheads out there, I'm giving away a pair of the recently released Air Jordan 4s. So if you want a chance to win either of these things, make sure to grab the first Core badge, which is available right now through the link in the top of the description below. Also make sure to follow me over on Core. It's a great platform, and I'm not just saying that because I am a small part owner of it. I just love it. It's a great way to connect with the community in new and different ways, and you can find out when new videos come out, and there's also giveaways. So check it out, link in the top of the description below. Over the last few years, Salehe Bembury has become one of the biggest names in the footwear industry, working with huge designer brands like Versace and then creating multiple collaborations with other brands like New Balance and Crocs, just to name a few. In fact, he's even dropping a book towards the end of the year to talk about his collaborations and his design journey. But even with all of that, Salehe Bembury is continuing to push boundaries by working with yet another brand. This time around, it's Puma. And what's cool about this collaboration is that unlike a lot of other sneaker collaborations where you're changing the color or materials or something like that, this is a much more involved collaboration in that, from what I can tell, Salehe Bembury actually designed this shoe from the ground up. And I mean, even just at a glance, you can see all the different Salehe Bembury details that are kind of molded literally into the shoe, like on the outsole and on the midsole. Details that wouldn't be done on a regular collaboration and instead kind of have to be created alongside the entire shoe being designed. And for me, someone who makes videos about sneakers online, shoes like this are the most exciting. Brand new silhouettes that feature new technologies or newer technologies and put them in a new silhouette that I've never tried before. I talk about retros all the time on my channel. I love retros from a lot of different brands, but usually it's just a different colorway. In this case, it's a whole new silhouette, and because of that, I decided to rock this shoe for a week straight to really get a good feel of the brand new Puma SB Velum Nitro. And I've gotta say, I really like this shoe a lot. No, the tech on this sneaker is not groundbreaking or incredibly different, but it's a really excellent refinement of tech that Puma's been using in other sneakers, and the design elements that Salehe Bembury sort of baked into the sneaker really make it unique and interesting. But hey, before we get into the pair itself, let's first take a look at the box. So unlike a lot of my sneaker reviews where when I show you the box, it just kind of looks like a standard box, in the case of the Puma SB Velum Nitro, it's not standard. This box is crazy bright. It kind of reminds me of like a Nerf collaboration or something like that. You've got blues, you've got reds, all kind of in this organic sort of splatter print, I guess. You've got Velum SB Nitro written across the top. I think I called this shoe the SB Velum Nitro. It's, I think, actually the Velum SB Nitro. Quite a long name, but each word sort of ties into a different element of the shoe. Velum is just the name of the silhouette itself. SB stands for Salehe Bembury, and Nitro is the name of the foam used in the midsole. So it's the Puma Velum SB Nitro. So rather than being called like the Salehe Bembury Puma Velum, which actually has a really nice ring to it, they went for the Puma Velum SB Nitro, again, probably to sort of hit all the boxes, like let everyone know it's got nitro in it. Standard practice across the footwear industry, whenever you've got like a new foam or new tech in a shoe, usually they want to call it out in the name. We see that with like the Nike React sneakers. It's literally called the React because it uses React foam in the midsole. On the sides of the box, you've got Puma's logo embossed, and then you've got the Puma logo with Salehe Bembury's fingerprint overlaid on top of it, and then of course Salehe Bembury's actual name. On the front of the box, you've got the size tag. Now this size tag probably will look a little bit different than the standard retail size tag, mainly because shout out to Salehe for sending this pair my way, really appreciate it. It's actually a friends and family pair, which I didn't realize till right now. I thought it was just a sample. Let's go. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Although the tag looks different, we can still get some information from it, like the name of the colorway, or at least the colors used. Fluoro green, probably a shortened version of the word before green, and then common green. And then I got a size 9, which is my true size, and we'll get into sizing advice about the shoe later on in the video. Another nice little detail that'll probably make its way to the retail packaging is that the Puma and Salehe Bembury logo is also printed on the paper. Now, as far as release information goes for this shoe, unfortunately, there's not a lot. This shoe actually doesn't officially release until the fall. There is no release date, and there's also no pricing for this shoe. However, 100 pairs in a very limited colorway released during Paris Fashion Week on June 25th. Unfortunately, I don't know the price of that shoe. I can't find the price anywhere online, but my guess would be that this shoe retails for somewhere between $150 to $200. Purely a guess based on what Puma usually retails their sneakers for, and also what shoes that are in this category usually go for. Again, my guess would be $150 to $200. My hope would be that it's closer to the $150 mark, but realistically it could be anywhere. Could also be more, could also be less. No idea. That being said, if you want a pair of these, you either have to buy the pair that released during Fashion Week for resale, which I've made sure to link through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen. There's only 100 pairs of those, so I don't know what the resale price is. You can check it out again through that YouTube shopping tab, or you can wait until the official retail colorways of this shoe drop in the fall. I think this is probably one of them, but I don't know for sure. But at this point, let's get into the actual materials and performance of the Puma Velum SB Nitro. I think I got the order right that time. Starting off from the top half of the shoe, I believe a majority of the upper is made up of this recycled engineered mesh. Now, I don't know exactly what it's recycled from. It could be plastic, it could be other textile material, I'm not totally sure. There's really not a lot of information out about this shoe yet. There's no official promo information out, so I don't really know all of the official wording for the tech specs, but from what I can gather, it is some sort of recycled material. That being said, it is pretty thin, and it reminds me a lot of other Puma running sneakers. In fact, I think the overall silhouette is meant to be a running sneaker, although you can definitely wear this casually. I ran and walked in this shoe, and I found that it's pretty decent for both because of the use of this thin engineered mesh or recycled engineered mesh or textile mesh. Again, not totally sure, but I do see some like shiny, I think clear plastic in there, so I would assume it's recycled plastic. It does give you a very thin, very lightweight, and incredibly breathable upper. The overall category of this shoe reminds me a lot of something like the Nike Invincible Run, a shoe that's designed to be a max cushion running sneaker, but at the same time is probably worn more casually, and it makes sense because this shoe is incredibly comfortable on foot and looks wild. The Invincible was incredibly comfortable on foot, but just didn't look that great. So this shoe is kind of like the best of both worlds. You get, in my opinion, slightly more comfort, which we'll talk about later, and also it looks better. But if you had to put this sneaker in some sort of category, I would say it's a max cushion trainer or running sneaker. Fused on top of the upper, you've got a couple different panels which provide things like structure and durability. Specifically on the toe area of the shoe, you've got this green fuse overlay, which is for added durability around the toe. And then behind that, you've got this sort of, in this colorway at least, this sort of light tan or almost matcha green color overlay, which is very, very organic looking and is inspired by a membrane, which is essentially what Velum is. It's a membrane of some kind. There's different kinds of Velum. There's Velum on your tongue, I think, and then Velum in nature, like on leaves and things like that. So I say all that to say that this overlay does look like some sort of membrane. Specifically, I would say a leafy membrane that covers the upper of the shoe to give you a bit more structure and kind of prevent the mesh from going all over the place. This overlay provides some containment for your foot that's not gonna compress your foot or feel overly confining, but it's also gonna give you just enough so you don't feel like you're sliding off of the footbed. It also looks wild. It's one of the most unique design details on the shoe. Continuing up on the shoe to the eye stay, you've got these reinforced eyelets, and weaving through the eyelets, you've got these flat green laces. Now, I think I got a second extra set of laces inside the box. I don't remember, I unboxed it. If you guys check out my unboxing video linked at the top of the screen, you will see if I did or not. I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't remember. And I also took everything back from my studio back into my house. So unfortunately, I don't have it with me either. But hey, either way, I would have kept the laces anyway because they perfectly match the overlays. Underneath the laces, you've got this thin foam tongue, which is pretty consistent across running sneakers. It's not gonna give you a huge amount of extra padding, but you don't really need that. You do have a bit of like a padding bubble right there under the Velum SB Nitro logo, but I think it's just there to kind of show off the logo. I don't think it's there for any sort of cushioning. On the lateral side, you've got the Puma logo in white, and then continuing back inside the sneaker, you've got a decently padded sock liner around the heel. It's really only got a majority of the padding around like the top part of the ankle area. You don't really have much towards the bottom, which again is consistent with running sneakers, but it's not gonna be like a very sort of cushiony, pillowy feel that you get in something like a pair of Brooks. Now, I will say after a week of wearing this shoe, I had no comfort complaints at all with the upper, but don't expect the same sort of plush, cushiony pillowiness that you get from the midsole of the sneaker in the upper of the shoe. The upper is very minimal, very lightweight, and designed to almost feel like you're not wearing an upper. Rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got a cork insole with, of course, the Puma and Salehe Bembury branding printed on the heel in black. Cork is great because it's antimicrobial and it does mold to your foot over time, but it's not as well cushioned as like a standard ortholite or foam midsole or something like that. I think it is probably foam backed. In fact, I'm certain it's foam backed. It is. You can see it. It's a very, very, very thin cork insole, so it's probably there mainly for aesthetics, but it looks cool and it doesn't feel bad. So at this point, let's talk about sizing and fit. And the good news about the Puma Velum SB Nitro, getting that name down, is that the sizing does seem to fit pretty much true to size. Now, I have regular width feet, slightly higher arches. What I will say is that this shoe has about the arch support that you would expect from a sneaker like this. Width-wise, it feels pretty decent. It feels pretty average, to be honest with you. So if you're a wide footer and maybe don't like average width shoes and you want to go up a half size, I don't think that's crazy to do at all. In terms of the actual fit of this shoe, at least for me, this shoe did fit true to size, and that's what I recommend to you guys. A lot of brands like Puma and Nike generally seem to have their sizing down pat. I haven't really had any sizing issues with Puma sneakers, specifically the newer, more tech-focused ones. Some of the older ones, like the suedes, yeah, here and there I'll have some sizing issues because the materials are stiffer or something like that. In this case, fit me true to size. That's what I recommend to you guys. Of course, when the shoe actually drops, depending on how limited it's actually going to be, there is a chance that you could try it out, maybe return it if it doesn't fit for you. Continuing back on the lateral side of the midfoot, you find another sort of standout detail, and that is this sort of, I guess, organic, broken up, splattery, it's really the only way I can describe it, Puma logo, or I guess you could call it an implication of a Puma logo because it's not a full Puma logo. Now that detail is only found on the lateral side and not on the medial medial side, it's also raised off the side of the shoe. It's possibly like a TPU overlay. It's been pressed into the upper, or maybe just a thick fuse overlay. I'm not totally sure what it is, but either way, there it is. Looks cool. You can feel it. On the medial side of the shoe, while you don't have that Puma logo, you instead do have this raised Puma and Salehe Bembury branding, the same logo that you find on the box, of course, with Salehe's signature on the Puma logo and then his actual name right there below it. One thing you may have noticed with Salehe Bembury's collaborations across all of the brands that he's worked with, or almost all of the brands that he's worked with, is that he usually incorporates his actual fingerprint into the design in some way. In this case, it's on the Puma logo. It's also found in other parts of the sneaker, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's a very cool literal signature that he kind of stamps on the shoe. He's literally leaving his fingerprints in the design, which I think is really cool, because that's one of those phrases that you use more metaphorically, but in the case of Salehe Bembury, he's literally doing it. I think that's cool. That's something that hasn't really been done that much before, at least not that I can think of. The heel of the upper of the shoe is pretty simple. It's just the Puma logo right there in the same color that you get on the Puma side stripe. And then moving down on the sneaker, you get to quite possibly the most interesting tech part of the shoe, and that is the Nitro foam midsole. Now visually, obviously this midsole is pretty wild looking. It features more organic details that seem to be either inspired by a brain or some sort of membrane. See what I did there? The pattern is kind of raised off the side of the shoe. Well, it's really molded into the material itself, or I guess the material is kind of expanded into the mold. But either way, it's this texture that you can feel, you can touch, and it gives the shoe a very, very unique look. It also does a good job of masking the creases in the foam. Nitro foam is very, very soft. Like I said before, it's similar to like a Nike React or even like a Nike React X. I might even say it's actually maybe even closer to Zoom X, which is a much softer foam. It feels really, really great underfoot, and it's also crazy lightweight. Problem is, the more that you wear it, it will get a lot of creases. However, because of that intricate texture, you don't really see them, which is kind of nice. And that, in a lot of cases, is why brands try to put more intricate textures into their soft foam midsole sneakers to kind of mask that creasing, because it creases basically right out of the box. In this case, I love the way that Salehe really incorporated his own design style into the midsole sculpting. I think it's very cool. You've got some sort of speed lines towards the front, which I like. You know what it reminds me of? And this might actually be what he was going for. You know when you look at like a wind tunnel and you look at, you know, the shape of the car or whatever it is, or a wing in the wind tunnel, and when you look at like the white smoke or steam or whatever it is kind of going over the form, it's very, very smooth as it goes over the form, and then it kind of creates this sort of turbulent pattern after it when it comes off of it, depending on how aerodynamic the thing is. In this case, you get that same sort of like smooth, almost like smoke look going over the shape of the shoe or underneath the bottom of the shoe, but then as it kind of comes out in the areas where I guess there's more compression and maybe there's more bounciness, you kind of get that sort of turbulent design. I don't know if that's actually what the inspiration was, but that's sort of the feeling that I'm getting, like a wind tunnel, like smoke look in the midsole, which now that I'm looking at it more, I love that. I didn't think about that till just now, but I mean, you can even see like there's some breaks in the lines there, which could, even here, shoot, the way it subtly kind of becomes more textured. That's dope. I really like that a lot. And then on the medial side too, look at that. That's sick. That's probably what the inspiration was, right? Like it's gotta be, right? Another dope detail about the midsole is actually the feel of the midsole. This Nitro foam is crazy soft underfoot. Again, it's very light, and it's also very responsive and very bouncy. So while yes, you are getting max cushion underneath your foot, you're not gonna feel like you're sinking into the shoe. You're gonna kind of bounce into the next step. In my opinion, as far as lifestyle running sneakers go, I think it might be in the running for the most comfortable underfoot max cushion sneaker of the year. Now we still of course have to wait and see what Nike does with the Vomero Plus sneaker, which is sort of the follow-up to the Invincible run, and of course we'll see what Adidas and New Balance and all those brands drop throughout the year. But right now, in terms of sneakers that have dropped this year, this is up there. And while I really like the Fuel Cell Rebel V5, the foam seems to be just a tad bit softer, and it bottoms out a bit easier than this does. So while this foam, in my head, I haven't compared them side by side, I just kind of wore them one day and then another day, this foam doesn't bottom out as easily, so it feels more cushioned underfoot. So in my opinion, I think comfort-wise, I would take this over the Fuel Cell Rebel V5, but they are pretty close. And what I like about this versus a lot of the other running sneakers out there that are max cushion is that this shoe is very heavily lifestyle and design focused. So it's meant to look wild, it's meant to look eye-catching, it's not meant to look purely like a fast running sneaker, which I think really sets this shoe apart. Finally, on the bottom of the sneaker, the outsole is pretty minimal. You've got these sort of tan rubber hits on the high wear areas of the shoe, like the forefoot and on the heel. Now obviously you can see that Salehe's fingerprint is also present as the traction pattern, which is sick, such a cool detail. Now I've worn the shoe for a week, and there has been some areas where the foam has worn away, which makes sense, or at least the paint on top of the foam, because these are actually making contact with the ground. That's something that's gonna happen, but the traction pattern will prevent the foam from wearing away in areas that it shouldn't wear away. Oh, and also before I forget, you've also got Salehe's name right there in the middle of the midfoot, in this sort of area that doesn't have any foam, which allows for more compression in that area, or maybe just doesn't need as much support. So after a week of wearing the Puma Velum SB Nitro, I've gotta say that both Puma and Salehe killed it with this silhouette. I think it's an excellent all-around lifestyle, everyday trainer style sneaker. It's definitely a max cushion shoe, and if you don't like max cushion, yeah, probably not for you. But for people like me who love love that super pillowy, soft, cushiony feel. This is great both for running and for walking. Now, if you're actually a runner, I'm sure you have very specific preferences that certain shoes you just love using because they specifically match your foot perfectly. This shoe may or may not work for you. It really depends on what you like. But I will say, as an everyday, very light trainer, at least that's how I used it, and walking shoe, I have yet to run extended miles in this shoe because I don't do that much. Visually, it's wild looking. I'm sure it's gonna be polarizing to some people, specifically because of the colorway, and obviously there's a lot going on in this shoe, but for me, I think it's very unique, very cool, and I think Salehe knocked another shoe out of the park. So shout out to Salehe. Thank you again for sending me this pair. Obvious disclosures here, Puma and Salehe did not pay me at all. They didn't tell me to say anything. They just sent me a pair of shoes, showed up at my doorstep. Here we are. I'm reviewing it because I thought it was interesting. So there you go. Guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the brand new Puma Velum SB Nitro and whether it's a shoe that you're interested in picking up later this year. So let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.